Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Alola once again, Pokemaniacs, Duuz-Diz-Din back again, with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga, the story of Sun and Moon, where previously we learned about why Moon is in Alola, and that is to find what she can to heal a Piplup that she let get terribly injured in the past, and she's doing what she can to find what she needs in order to heal it. But when Mallow receives a call from Kiawe, where he's under attack, Moon, Mallow, Sun, and Lana all regroup and head over to the area where they find an injured Kiawe. They encounter Team Skull and have a bit of a scuffle, and after finding out that Team Skull is after Tapu Lele, Lana and Mallow stay behind to take on the Grunts and send Sun and Moon ahead with Kiawe. Kiawe properly teaches Sun about Z-moves, and as they arrive at the domain of Tapu Lele, they see Gladion, the newest enforcer for Team Skull, already in possession of Tapu Lele, who was weakened after fighting Xurkitree, the Ultra Beast. Kahili arrives at the behest of Hala in order to give Sun his brand new Z-Ring so that he may properly take on Gladion. With the use of a Z-move, the mask on Type Null starts to break, causing Gladion to back off. But after Moon explains why Tapu Lele is so easy to capture, Gladion discards it, feeling that it's not what he needs in order to take on the Ultra Beast. He warns everyone about the impending danger of the Ultra Beast before he takes off, while Sun and the others rise to the challenge of Tapu Lele after they manage to heal it. Sun is able to make a good impression on Tapu Lele, as it seems to be getting them ready for what is about to happen. But something's going on with the Rotom Dex, as it's only able to say the words Necrozma. And what's with that place known as the Aether Foundation? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, the first chapter that we are looking at today is titled Flash and Cosmog's Secret. What's the secret of Cosmog? As if I didn't know. Very interesting cover. See, it's hard to tell. Is that... No, that's not from the perspective of Luzmine. It's like Luzmine's hair is just looming over Gladion and Lily as well as her hands. That is wild. We pick up with Professor Kukui, who is walking through Koni City. Okay, there it is. And he says to himself, no matter when I visit, this place is always lively. Gotta love Koni City. The meeting place was behind Mallow's restaurant, right? He spots someone saying, there they are, hey Moon. Only for us to see Lurantis? Yeah, striking out at Moon's Marini. But the attack also ends up hitting Kukui. Marini goes down hard, but still manages to regain consciousness. We see that Moon is a bit tired. As Sun calls out, nice! It withstood the solar blade. Moon looks to Lurantis saying, it attacked without pausing. No, it had a power herb. Kukui comes in questioning, Sun, what are you all doing? Sun says, yo, Professor Kukui. You see, Miss over here, was talking about how she needed to get stronger to fight that mysterious creature. Mallow said, if that's the case, and then she whipped up some soup this morning. Then this giant Lurantis was lured here by the soup smell. It's the, totem Pokemon, yeah. And then it brought along some underling-like fellas. Some strong, some weak, and they've been battling for hours. Hours, dang. Kukui thinks to himself saying, I see. Looking at its size, that's probably the Lush Jungle's totem Pokemon. Excellent opponent for training. Moon then tells Marini to use Poison Jab, and the hit manages to knock back Lurantis. Moon gives a sigh of relief, as Mallow says, great job, Moon! Moon says, of course, is what I'd like to say, but this has been incredibly challenging. She goes over to Marini, giving it a hug, saying, great job, Marini. Kukui then comes in saying, that looked like quite an experience. Moon says, Professor. Kukui then gets serious saying, about that report I received from you yesterday. I've got something I need to discuss with you right away. This morning I was contacted by Burnett, and then we flash back to Kukui's place, where we see Lily looking through a book with Cosmog. Burnett's attention is drawn to Lily, thinking to herself, I know she's hiding from someone, but it's not good to keep her shut inside all the time. He then calls out, Lily. Lily responds, yes. Burnett says, I got some shopping to do in Howley. Why don't you come with me? Lily questions, shopping? Burnett says, is there any place you'd like to go? Lily says, clothing. I like to buy my own clothes. Burnett says, okay, we'll go to the boutique then. As they head out, Burnett says, the clothes you're wearing now are pretty cute too. Did you pick them out yourself? But something washes over Lily. Oh, gee. This is depicted like a nervous breakdown. Lily's legs give out, her eyes go wide, her teeth chatter, and Lily has a flashback of her own. We see her in a different outfit, and someone saying, my, how hideous. Sit. Well, Lily tries to protest, saying, but the person forces Lily down. They undo Lily's hair, saying, wear your hair down and change into this. They hand Lily the dress. Lily is made to wear it. As the person says, I don't want anything hideous to be near me, and I don't want to see anything hideous either. As we see Duuz-Diz-Din looming over Lily, saying, don't go and embarrass me, Lily, my dear. It's sad too, because I understand why Duuz-Diz-Din is like that. But, I mean, there are parents who are very much like Shu. To a certain degree, my mom was kind of like that. That phrase, don't go and embarrass me. That overwhelming obsession with looks and stuff. But man, like Lily in a lot of adaptations is going through different brands of a relationship with her mother. But this, they put a majorly severe angle to it here. Lily is completely unresponsive as Burnett calls out to her, Lily, hey, are you okay? What's wrong? As Lily mutters, no, I don't want to, Mother. I'm... Suddenly, Cosmog comes bursting out of Lily's bag. Burnett notes Cosmog is as if it's reacting with Lily, as we see Cosmog flailing, as Lily is still unresponsive. Cosmog then starts to tear a hole through space. Burnett says, what? It can't be. It's cutting through space? Lily then hits the ground, unconscious, and this catches Cosmog's attention as it heads over to Lily, and a hole in space, I think, disappears? Yeah. Burnett says, it vanished. Back in present day, Kukui tells Moon, that's apparently how things went. Moon thinks on this, saying, it's the same as back then. Kukui questions, back then? Moon notes, before the full force battles started, Lily was shaking all alone in the waiting room, too. Then Nebby, Cosmog, came jumping out of her bag. Sun says, that's probably, a bond or something, right? Trainers' feelings reach their Pokémon, so the opposite's possible, too. Sun said that rather succinctly, but he said it with a very dismissive look on his face. But Moon says, probably. But there was another thing. After Cosmog ran away, I looked up towards where it went and saw that crack in the sky. Kukui says, are you saying that Cosmog is... Moon says, I don't know. There's not enough information for me to come to a conclusion. If possible, I'd like to speak with your wife to get the facts in order. Kukui says, sure. And, okay, it's probably Mallow who says, you can use my restaurant. There's still a while until we open. We then pick up on the video call with Burnett. Kukui saying, hey honey, are you ready? Burnett says, sure am. We see that Kukui has set up the tablet on the table, holding it up opposite Moon, while everyone else sits around them. Everyone looking rather intent, except for Sun, who looks rather bored with the whole situation. Moon says, nice to meet you, Professor Burnett. My name is Moon. Burnett says, Alola, the pleasure's mine. Moon says, I'm going to share and sort the information I have on the crack in the sky with you. Among our group, the first sighting of the crack was 3 days ago on the afternoon of the full force battles. Those who saw it include me and Gladion, who isn't here. The location was Mahalo Trail on Mili Mili Island. To be more specific, on the suspension bridge. Kahili then chimes in saying, next is me, Kahili. Yesterday morning I was also on Mili Mili Island and Mili Mili Meadow. Meadow. In my case, I fought two mysterious creatures. Thinking back on it, I feel like there was a crack in the sky at that time. Moon then says, the third sighting was yesterday afternoon. The witnesses were, Mallow chimes in, me and Moon. In the sky above lush jungle, a mysterious creature was trying to come out of the crack. Burnett says, then this morning, the witness was me, and the location was near the Pokémon laboratory. Moon says, from here on, it's what I'm importing. 3 months ago, you saw Lily collapse on the beach, correct? Burnett says, that's right. Moon says, and she doesn't know where from or how far she ran away? Burnett says, it's either that or that she doesn't want to talk about it. Moon says, before she reached the beach, or since she came to the Kukui laboratory, has Lily gone to the lush jungle or Mealy Meadow? Kukui seems to be catching up on what Moon is saying, wait, Moon, are you saying that Cosmog has some relation to those locations? Moon says, the possibility is a problem. What's your answer? Have you brought Lily to the meadow or jungle? Kukui then even looks in saying, I haven't. What about you, honey? Burnett says, I've gone to the meadow several times in order to get yellow nectar, but neither Lily or Cosmog acted strangely at the time. Moon says, I see. As things are right now, I can't say that Cosmog and the crack are connected. However, there's no doubt about Cosmog having the ability to cut through space. Kahili then says, so Professor Burnett, you're saying that that girl named Lily has run away from someone, and you think the reason for that is somehow connected to Cosmog? Burnett says, that's right, that's correct. Kahili then adds, do you think that someone wants to use Cosmog's ability to cut through space? Mallow questions, who is that someone? Could it be Team Skull? He always says, it's true that Team Skull is violent and has committed extortion several times, but I think that holes in space and mysterious creatures could be a bit too large scale for them, right? Haley says, I don't think it's Team Skull either. Most likely, Gladion wanted to borrow the Tapu's power to fight the mysterious creatures, and he accepted a job as Team Skull enforcer. Haley hit it right on the head. Lana then says, but couldn't they have been planning something so big that they needed a powerful enforcer for? Kakui says, what do you think, honey? Annette ponders on this and then says, this stuff suddenly getting all big and it's scaring me a little. I'm getting worried that I won't be able to protect Lily on my own. Kukui says, I was thinking the exact same thing. Why don't you take Lily and meet us up with us here? Burnett says, sounds good to me. I'll head over there once I get more research done on other dimension. Moon questions, other dimensions? Another dimension. Burnett says, that's the field I specialize in. Do you know of the Pokemon Palkia and Giratina? Oh, and Moon knows all about them, especially because of where she comes from. Saying, of course, that's it. Palkia can use spatial rend, and Giratina has emerged from the distortion world and attacked Sinnoh before. Burnett says, right. Domains other than ours that are connected to Pokemon. We call those domains other dimension. That mysterious creature used electric type moves, right? If so, there's a possibility that that creature is a Pokemon, and that on the other side of that, the crack is another dimension. Kukui says, all right, I've got it, son. Sun is roused from his sleep. I love how Meowth is just all over Sun in such a weird way. Sun says, what? Kukui says, you were asleep? Sun says, give me a break. This has been on a tangent forever, and it's all gibberish to me. Moon grows angry, but Mallow tries to calm her, saying, now. The Sun says, so what do you need? Want me to quit the island challenge? You gotta pay me a cancellation fee. Oh my god. Kukui grows angry, saying, idiot! You're continuing the island challenge. You're going to Ula Ula Island next. You'll go with him, right, Moon? Moon says, of course. Kukui says, honey, bring Lily with you to Ula Ula Island. Burnett says, gotcha. Kahili then says, I'm going to return to Mealy Island and report to Hala. Kukui says, all right. And you captains are... And Lana rather seriously says in her just take charge voice, we will investigate Team Skull's hideout and infiltrate it, much to the stock of Kiawe and Mala. Oh god, that face. That face! Jesus! Kukui is taken off guard by that. As Lana says, there's no need to worry. We won't do anything violent right away. We'll talk to them first. Jeez, like Mandy from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Let's go. Mallow jabs Kiawe, saying, Kiawe, shouldn't we stop her? Kiawe calls out, Lana, wait. I have to call work and tell them I'm taking the day off. Mallow's bowled over by this, saying, Are you kidding me? Kiawe says, I'm more afraid of battle mode, Lana, and getting fired than Team Skull. Mallow says, we should ask Elima and Acerola for help. Oh, it's the Gladian? Yeah. He's arrived at the city where Team Skull has taken up residence. As Gladian looks around, he sees several members of Team Skull just kind of hanging out. As he says, so this is it. They took over a ghost town unlawfully and built a barricade to keep out intruders. This is what they call blatant thievery. Suddenly a Salazzle lunges at him, shooting out acid. No, I know. Gladian calls it Venom Drench, huh? No, jump. And as both he and Tight Null jump into the air, Gladian commands it to use Air Slash. It hits the Salazzle hard, and as Gladian and Tight Null manage to land on a rooftop, he calls out, Who are you? The voice says, Shouldn't that be my line? Plumeria shows up with a bunch of Team Skull grunts saying, You're the enforcer Guzmahai, right? Pretty good for a kid who's all beat up. I'm Plumeria. I'm a Team Skull admin. Gladian doesn't respond, and Plumeria grows angry, saying, Giving me a silent treatment, huh? The grunts then speak up, saying, You punk, get over here. Open your stupid mouth and at least say hi there, damn it. Don't think you're better just 'cause you're an enforcer. The grunts then turn on each other, saying, What does enforcer mean again? Damn it. Like I would know. Look it up yourself, jerk. What did you just call me? You want to fight? The Plumeria interrupts, saying, Be quiet. Quit making a fuss. Gladian finally speaks up, saying, I see you have a Salazzle. Apparently only females can evolve into those. They say that they charm males to land it with pheromones and create reverse harems for themselves. I wonder if Pokemon end up resembling their trainers, or trainers intentionally choose Pokemon that resemble them. Plumeria questions, What are you trying to say, punk? Gladian says nothing. It's just that seeing a woman at the top of the pyramid trying to control everything kills me a little inside. See, that comment in isolation sounds incredibly sexist. And Plumeria grows angry and has Salazzle go in with Dragon Tail, hitting Type No. But Plumeria then backs it off, saying, I don't know why Kuzma hired you, but you're not a real member of Team Skull. If you keep pulling stunts like that, it ain't gonna go over well. The grunt says, Yeah, we'll get you, you dumb enforcer. Plumeria explains, We have men stay in that mansion. You stay outside and stay in guard. Follow me. As they head off, something moves behind Gladian. He notices it turning back, but he doesn't see it. A Zygarde cell lurking on the palm tree above. As Plumeria calls out, What are you doing? Get a move on. Oh boy. Okay. Story is in full swing. Alright, the next chapter is Shipwreck, and what sharp teeth you have. Brookish? I think that is. Yeah, I think so. I'm honestly not sure. I don't think I ever captured this Pokemon. Maybe I did. Yeah, it might have been a capture and forget it kind of situation, because this one's just kind of lost to me. But a nice cover page of Sun riding on Sharpedo and, okay, Falban Wick, I think. Pretty sure it's them. Alright, we pick up on Kukui's boat, with Sun having laid out several packages, saying, Alright, packaging complete. Boy, am I sleepy. Kukui says, It'll be a while until we get to Ula Ula. Why don't you sleep now, Sun? Sun says, Can't say no to that. Right before he accidentally reclines on the Rotom Dex. He goes, Ow. The heck? She throws her Pokedex out here while she's snoring away inside? Kukui tells him, Hey now, I'm the one who put it there. Sun questions, You did? Kukui says, Yeah, Moon asked me to do some maintenance. Sun pats it, saying, "So is it fixed now?" Kukui tells him, "There aren't any issues with the Rotom or the Dex itself. Rotom's thoughts probably aren't being communicated properly because of that mysterious creature's electric-type attacks. That could be taken care of by getting rid of the excess electricity, though." Sun says, "That's fine, but what was it that it said yesterday? I forgot." Kukui, with a very serious look, says, "Necrozma. Was it?" Sun questions, "What the heck does necrozma mean? Man, you really building this up." Kukui says, "This is the first time I've heard it too." Sun says, "The heck? You call yourself a professor." Kukui tells him, "Give me a break. I specialize in Pokemon moves, you know. But if it's related to that mysterious creature or the crack in the sky, my wife might know something about it." A voice calls out, "Well, that's a shame," as a figure comes bursting out of the water behind them. It's Burnett, riding on a Mantine, I think? Yeah, Mantine. Burnett says, "Hi, darling. I never heard about that necrozma thing either." Cookie says, "Hey there, honey. Did you bring Lily along?" Yeah, I'd be like that too. Burnett just comes bursting out of the water like, "Oh my god." Lily's hanging on for dear life. Burnett says, "I did, but it doesn't seem like she's too good with Mantine surfing. Now I feel bad for her." Sun says, "Wow, so she's Professor Burnett? Jumping and jiving, huh?" Jumping and jiving? How old was the person who translated this? That is a weirdly old turn of phrase. Then again, it's actually something I'd expect to be in the Pokemon Adventures manga, because they had a tendency to just put in some very that's very old terminology. Cookie says, "A little, yeah." Burnett says, "Your son, right? Nice to meet you. I really love your Pukimuku skin lotion. I'd love to get some more sometimes." Sun says, "Thanks." But then she angrily says, "But I'll never forgive you for defeating the Master Royal." Sun says, "Huh? Why?" Unbeknownst to them, something peeks out of the water and sends out, a psychic pulse? Burnett, Sun, Kukui, they're all hit hard by it. Is it giving them vertigo? Because it's almost like they can barely stand. My god. Sun says, "What the? Now I'm seasick?" Kukui says, "No, this is..." Burnett says, "I can't stand up straight." Kukui says, "Honey, are you alright?" Suddenly it's like the water just starts to lurch and swish around them. Sun says, "Crap, Professor, look at the water." "Professor?" But Kukui, he's pretty much out of it too. The water sloshes, it hits the Mantine, and it sends Burnett and Lily flying into the water. Sun says, "This is bad." He brings out his ride pager using Pokeride Jet, which brings forth a Sharpedo, which he races forth on. Burnett calls out, "Sun, get Lily." Sun says, "Gotcha." But just as he gets close to her, he's once again hit by that vertigo-inducing blast. He says, "Damn it, not again." And then he notices the figure in the water. He says, "Brookish, it's that thing's fault. Ugh, my head. Quarter, help me out. Call your friends and help Lily." And Wishy-Washy does just that, bringing forth a school of Wishy-Washy, all towards Lily, bringing forth the mighty School Wishy-Washy. The Wishy-Washy face off with Brookish, and, they clash in the air? Wait, what? What was this attack, though? Sun starts to pass out, though, saying, "How'd it go, Quarter? Did you save her?" Quarter. We then cut to the beach, a figure walking along it. "Oh, Arceola, or Acerola? I really need to figure out how to pronounce her name." But her and her, that's not Sandygast. No, it is Sandygast. Okay. Her and her Sandygast stumble along, both Sun and Lily washed up on the beach, Quarter tending to them. She then sees the trial amulet, and her eyes get wide, and then her smile does too. Oh, okay. It was perspective. Okay. So her smile gets wide, she whispers something to Sandygast. Sandygast levitates both Sun and Lily. It took me a while to realize that, because then you see a scene where it looks like Sun and Lily are like huge next to her, but it's like, oh no, that's perspective. Oh, is that Aether Paradise? Sun is fast asleep until something comes running along his face, and then someone slaps him in the face. Sun says, "What the heck?" Well, something a little bit more expletive than that, but we see some kids chasing after a young goose, saying it ran that way. Wait up! Suddenly Lily calls out, "Are you awake, son?" The son says, "Yeah, thank goodness. Glad you're okay." Why do you know my name? This is the first we've met, right? Lily says, "Yes, it is, but I know you very well. Professor Burnett recorded your full-force battle with the Mass Royale, and we watch it several times every day." Really? We have a flashback to Burnett said, "I've got the feeling that the Mass Royal is going to win today." And Lily says, "Are you sure? Are you sure about that?" She's like one of those people who just keep watching football games over and over again, pretending like there's a way that the team could actually win it. But Lily gives a bow, saying, "On another note, my name is Lily. Thank you kindly for saving me." Son, blushes a little. Lily questions, "Is something the matter?" Son says, well, it's just that I've never seen someone as pretty as you before. But this seems to have an inverse effect on Lily. Son says, "You're almost like a doll." But Lily says, "I'm not." Son says, "Huh? But really?" But Lily says, "I'm begging you, please stop." Son says, I'm sorry." But Lily changes the subject, saying, "You're a courier, right? Are you helping out your family?" Son says, "Nah, I gotta hurry and save 100 million yen. That's why I'm a courier and do all sorts of other jobs." That aside, where are we? Lily says, "Apparently this is a facility that takes care of children with no relatives as well as injured Pokemon. I was told so by the person who brought us here after we were found collapsed on the beach." Son questions, "Huh? Who?" Lily says she said she was going to make a call, so she stepped outside. "Oh, that's her." And then Son spots Acerola on the balcony, and then he notices the little pendant he has, marking her as a trial captain. Son thinks to himself, that accessory. Yahweh, Lana, and Mallow all had the same one. Then that means she's a trial captain. Do they have that all in the anime too? Yeah. Okay, they do have it all in the game. I never actually noticed that. They do have it in the anime. Okay, well then again, you can always say that's just an accessory that the kids have. But man, if that's a thing that marks them as trial captains, then why didn't take something that actually has an important meaning and kind of whittle it down to nothing in the anime? Unless they give a greater meaning behind it in the anime too. So I guess we're not at Aether. They're not at Aether Paradise, but now we actually cut there. Are they? You know what? Are they called Aether Grunts? Aether Foundation employees, not grunts, because they're not necessarily bad people. An Aether employee enters into a room saying, "I'm coming in. Mr. Faba, I have a report." Faba says, "Mr. Faba?" The employee says, "It's about the 3 yacht passengers, the uninjured Mantine, and the fainted Brookish that our patrol boat rescued. The 3 passengers have regained consciousness and are able to speak without issue. What should be done next?" Faba says, "This is troubling. Truly, truly troubling." The employee questions, "Troubling? What is, Mr. Faba?" Faba says, "That is." And suddenly the employee is lifted into the air by Hypno and thrown against the wall. I feel like he could go to HR about that. As Faba rises from his desk, he says, "How many times must I repeat myself? I told you to call me Branch Chief, Faba." Man, they're making Aether a little bit more sinister than they ever were in the games, because they were passively sinister. But I think as a whole, their motivations were good. It's just some elements of their management lost themselves along the way. But Faba was probably the worst out of all of them, if I'm being honest. Like, even in comparison to Luz Mean and her issues. At least that actually stemmed from something I can be a little bit more forgiving towards. But Faba's just bastard on top of bastard. He asks the employee, "What am I to you?" The employee says, "My boss?" Faba says, "Precisely. And who is my boss?" The employee says, "President Luz Mean, sir?" Faba says, "What did you call her?" The employee says, "President Luz Mean?" Faba says, "Precisely. So, why do you not refer to me by my title? If I were not important, I wouldn't mind you calling me Mr. Faba. However, I am the branch chief. You call her President Luz Mean, so why do you not call me Branch Chief Faba? Answer me, why not?" The employee says, well, that's... Father then says, I know exactly why. You think I'm not fit to be the second most powerful person in this foundation, but that I am not fit to be branch chief, and I am not a boss worthy of respect. Deep in your heart, you mock me. That is what your words tell me. The employee says, that's not it at all. And as Father extends his hand, the employee shirks back. But Father then says, are you hurt anywhere? No matter how many times I scold it, my hypno always plays tricks on people. I am truly sorry. I shall have it escort you to the infirmary. It may do something again on the way, though. Yeah, shifting the blame. The employee says, don't worry about me. I'm not hurt anywhere. My apologies, Branch Chief Faba. I'll be careful from now on. I'll be taking my leave now. And Faba just waves him off, saying, fine. The employee exits, patting his hurting back. Papa goes back to his computer saying, always bothering me when I'm busy. There, this should be good enough. He's working on his blog. He says, there isn't a soul in this organization who would ever realize that I'm Branch Chief F, the popular blogger who gets 200,000 page views every month. I mean, that's actually not bad. After all, my blog is only accessible to those of superior intellect who care about success and eminence, a stress-free happy life with Pokémon, and coexistence with nature and Pokémon. People whose minds are full of fantasies won't make it in the real world. Faba may be a bastard, but he is a very entertaining bastard. Wick comes up behind him saying, oh, are you researching the sea, Mr. Faba? Faba says, Assistant Branch Chief Wick. It's awfully rude to enter without knocking. Wick says, I knocked. I called out to you several times, too. Did you hear the report, Mr. Faba? The 3 people rescued regained consciousness. Wick is a gem. Faba says, I did, Assistant Branch Chief Wick. Make sure to give the title. Wick says, let's hurry then, Mr. Faba. She opens the door saying, sorry to keep you waiting. Though Faba thinks to himself, the nerve. As we see Kukui, Burnett, and Moon all in Aetherware. Burnett says, thank you for rescuing us. Wick says, no problem, but then Faba pushes her out of the way, saying, what a disaster! We believe that the accident was caused by the psychic energy emitted by a wild brookish, which created confusion, leading to the yacht and Mantine crashing. Wick then says, afterwards the brookish battled with someone or something, causing it to faint. We're taking care of both brookish and the Mantine. Also, our boat brought your yacht to the underground dock and is being repaired, so there's no need to worry. Moon questions, where are we? Faba says, oh my, you don't know who we are? Moon says, I don't. Faba takes the opportunity to say, then please take your time and look around. Welcome to Aether Paradise. Faba makes me think of a less cool version of Mayuri from Bleach, or even more like Caesar Clown from One Piece. Yes. Alright, and the last chapter that we will be doing, because I feel like I do less and less chapters as time goes on, but a lot of that is mostly just because it feels like there's a lot more pages to the chapters, or maybe there's just a lot more dialogue. I don't know, is chapter 16 called A Photo Shoot in the Abandoned Thrifty Megamart. Okay. Faba says, I am the Branch Chief Faba. And Wick says, behind Faba's outstretched arms, and I am the Assistant Branch Chief Wick. Faba says, allow us to guide you on your tour of Aether Paradise. They begin the tour walking around, seeing several of the Aether employees tending to the Pokemon. Faba saying, this is the sanctuary for our injured Pokemon. You could say that this is the very heart of our Foundation's existence. The injuries sustained by the Pokemon here are not from battles with other Pokemon, but abused by humans. Moon then says, Assistant Branch Chief, ma'am, I have a question. Wick says, if you like, you can just call me Wick. We then get Faba's heart assessment, which reads, she interrupted and asked the assistant branch chief a question instead of the branch chief. Moon gets -2 points in his mind. Oh boy. Moon says, do you happen to rescue a boy and girl around my age as well? Wick says, unfortunately, no. Faba says, as I, the one in charge of this facility, have heard nothing of that nature, they likely have yet to be found. Wick says, there's something I'm curious about, though. The Brookish that attacked their group was hurt by a human. I think that it took out its anger on Professor Kukui's yacht, which just happened to be nearby. It was most likely hurt by Team Skull because, well, this year there have been 45 cases of them abusing Pokémon. Faba then says, Assistant Branch Chief Wick, you mustn't jump to conclusions. There have been more cases than usual, though. Moon questions, is that true? Faba says, yes. 29 cases of assault, 11 destructions of habitat, and 5 cases of being sold as food. There may be more considering how some cases are ignored or left unreported. Burnett turns to Cookie saying, do you think Sun and Lily might have been captured by Team Skull? Funny enough, Team Skull has nothing to do with most of this. Well, the Pokemon, maybe. Cookie says, honey, don't worry about it. If they're in Team Skull's hands, that's even better. Faba questions, why do you say that? Cookie says, you see, Akala Island's trial captains are headed to Team Skull's hideout as we speak. Oh, Faba freaks out saying, what? Cookie says, but all they're doing is finding the place. Wick says, my, they're going to force them to surrender? Cookie says, oh no, they said they were just going to settle things by having a nice gentle talk with them. Buddy, either you're just trying to calm her nerves or you're more naive than I think you are. We're just gonna have a nice little talk with them, cracks knuckles. Wick says, that's good. Well, Faba calms down and says, Assistant Branch Chief Wick. Wick says, yes, sir. Faba says, once I give orders to send reinforcements to search for the missing children, I must report the situation to the president. Please continue to guide our guest in my stead. Wick says, of course. Faba tells him, I'll be going then. As he goes up the lift, he starts immediately freaking out, saying the trial captains are heading for Team Skull's hideout. Those hot-headed runts, there's no way they're just going to have a talk. If Team Skull ends up getting destroyed, our plan will, President lose mean, President lose mean. Meanwhile, honestly, what is that? I know that location, but I can't remember what it is. Oh, it's the Aether House. Okay, that's why I thought it was Aether. I thought it was the Aether Foundation itself. Okay, I vaguely remember this location. It's not that big. I have a vague memory of this, but it was such a in and out kind of thing. Yeah, okay. Acerola lives there. Right. Okay. Acerola says, what? How did you know? Sun says, that little thingy on your head. Acerola says, oh no. Sun says, Kiawe and the other Akala Island trial captains had the same thing. Acerola says, oh, you're a sharp one. You're right on the money. I'm Ula Ula's one and only trial captain, Acerola. Wait, one and only? I could have sworn there was... Wait a minute. Am I not understanding how... Okay, maybe there's something about the other one that I don't know where Acerola says that. She says, speaking of which, you're doing the island challenge, aren't you? Sun says, huh? How did you know? Acerola says, your island challenge amulet is hanging from your waist. Sun says, huh? You're awfully sharp. And then you just have Lily off to the side laughing. He says, sorry, but Sun, I think you should thank her first. Sun says, you're right. Thanks for bringing us here, Acerola. My name's Sun. Sun, Acerola is absolutely one of my favorites. She says, I know, I heard from Mallow and that old guy, Nanu. Sun says, oh, so that means you're planning on seeing if I'm worthy of meeting Tapu Bulu then? Acerola says, yep, you know about my trial then. But whether or not you're worthy is something I get to decide. Sun says, huh? Then is it something I get to decide? Sun says, huh? Then who does? Acerella says, Tapu Bulu, of course. Obviously. You don't know a thing about Tapu Bulu, do you? Sun says that they told you that too? Acerella waves him over, saying, if you're gonna meet Tapu Bulu, it's better that you know about it first. That's why I want to show you something. Follow me. And they head to the abandoned Megamart. Acerella says, we're here. Sun says, this is an abandoned building. You were planning on testing me anyways? Acerella says, aha, you got me. Here, this is your trial. Kind of looks like a Miss Magius. Sun says, a camera? Acerella says, if you did the Akala trials, you should already know this, but there's a totem Pokemon in here too. Please take a picture of that totem Pokemon for me. Sun says, a photo? That's all? Acerola slyly says, hee hee, that's all. Think you can do it? Sun says, of course I can. Taking pics is as simple as it gets. Anywho, what exactly is this place? Acerola says, this used to be a thrifty Megamart. Sun says, oh, like the one Kiawe works at. Acerola explains, saying, this was the first branch, but Tapu Bulu got angry and destroyed it. Oh, is that actually how the Megamart ended up in this state? Oh, yeah. I actually did not remember that. Yeah, that's interesting. Lily is shocked, saying, the guardian deity destroyed it? I mean, it's the most undestroyed thing possible. It's mostly just abandoned. Acerola says, it's everyone's guardian deity, not just humans after all. Sometimes it's innocent, sometimes it's capricious, and sometimes it's cruel. Man, they say that about all of the Tapu. Lily questions, why would it do such a thing? Acerola waves him off, saying, you gotta do the trial to find out. Well, I'll be off now. Sun says, where are you going? Acerola says, didn't you know? Akala's 3 trial captains are headed to Team Skull's hideout. Mallow asked me to join them. Yeah, you got Yahweh and Mallow following Lana, and Mallow's on the phone saying, the two of us can't handle her. It still takes me off guard that Lana's just so intense here. Like, no version of Lana I know of is like this. And as Acerola heads off, she says, well, do your best. Alola. And you got Sun and Lily sweating going in, which begs the question, Lily, why are you going? Then again, it's not like she knows anybody else in the area. It is a good way of getting Sun and Lily to bond a little bit. And you got Moon bonding with Gladian. Sun might as well bond with Lily. Sun says, all right, let's go. Lily says, right. And just as soon as they peek into the Megamart, they are startled by I actually don't. Oh, yeah, Shuppet. Oh, Shuppet. Yeah, that was what these things are called. A Shuppet sticking its tongue out. Lily immediately clings on to Sun and he blushes fiercely as we see a variety of ghosts and other Pokemon that hang out in dark places. Haunter, Ghastly, Shuppet, Golbat, a Klefki. Oh, Lily even names them, saying a Shuppet, Ghastly, Haunter, and Klefki. There's a lot of Pokemon living here. Sun, though, I do actually appreciate that. He's not completely. He doesn't have. It's not like he doesn't have feelings towards the opposite gender or anything like that. He's just like, sorry, can you let go of my arm? It's kind of hard to move. Lily says, sorry. And Sun says, don't worry about it. And then they hear some clattering and thumping and a clumping. Lily says, what's making that noise? And then she sees a conveyor belt at the register moving, saying, Sun, over there, that register's conveyor belt is moving. This place was abandoned. There shouldn't be any electricity. I think that's Sun who says that. Sun says, maybe it's the totem Pokemon. I'm going to try to get a picture. He takes several pictures. And then Lily points to a shopping cart, saying, now that shopping cart is moving on its own. Sun takes a picture and Lily questions, find anything? Sun just says, no, just the Pokemon we saw earlier. No? There's this. Yeah, he points to a bit of a smudge. And this over here. There's something's there. Lily says, it looks like it was running from the camera. Sun says, there's definitely something that won't show itself. And suddenly something moves onto the ground. It scares Sun. But then he picks it up, saying, it's all right. This plush fell, that's all. But then he sees another Pikachu-like figure saying, yikes. You know what? Just because I haven't really done it, I'm putting Salazzle in here. I know I'm a little late with that, but I do kind of think Salazzle's kind of cool for reasons. And we have Mimikyu, which is masquerading as a Pikachu. Sun looks at the plushy figure saying, the heck? This one's a plush too. It's an awfully creepy one though. Is this supposed to be a Pikachu? I never put this thing in my house. No one ever buy this thing, right? But then Lily says, when you put it like that, I feel bad for it. Sun says, what? It's just a plush. Don't you think it's insulting to Pikachu? But suddenly, the camera struck out of his hand, and it's pretty much destroyed. Sun says, oh, the camera. And suddenly, Mimikyu launches its tendril out, knocking Sun away into some boxes. Lily calls out to Sun, as Sun unleashes his Torracat, which goes up against Mimikyu. Lily again calls out to Sun, but Sun says it's so fast. Is that the totem Pokemon? But suddenly a voice calls out, that Pokemon's called Mimikyu, as the Rotom Dex just comes bursting out of Sun's backpack. Sun says, you're Mrs. Why are you here? The Rotom Dex says, I don't want to be with you either. This only happened because you jumped in the ocean while holding me. That's when I was starting to recover too. You already broke me once. How many times more until you're happy? Sun just kind of sulks from this. But the Rotom Dex says, but since I'm here, I decided to help you. Be thankful. I added an extra Z in there by accident. Sun questions, help me? The Rotom Dex says, now, point my back at Mimikyu. I have a camera function called the Poke Finder. Look for a photo opportunity. Sun says, all right. But the Rotom Dex says, where are you even aiming? You stink. I can't keep up. Sun says, shut up already. That thing's fast. Stop trying to cover your lack of skill. Oh, the Rotom Dex says, stop trying to cover your lack of skill. But Sun tosses the Rotom Dex saying, hold on a minute. I'm going to hit it with a Z move first. That'll keep it from moving. Then we can get a snap. Sun says, for 100 million yen, and has Torracat use Inferno Overdrive against Mimikyu. We then cut over to Mili Island's trainer school. Oh, okay. Okay, so now we're encountering him. We see a figure coming down the stairs saying, is that true, Mallow? As we're introduced to the trial captain, Elima, who I'm pretty sure is usually supposed to be the first captain you encounter. But I do tend to feel like he's the one who's the most forgotten in pretty much every form of media, because I don't know how much he's featured in the anime. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's the least featured in the anime. And even in the games, it feels like you kind of forget about him after a while. But then again, I feel like a lot of the trial captains are just kind of a blip and then they're gone kind of situation. But Elima says, you found Team Skull's hideout? Mallow on the phone says, that's right, Elima. It's new information, hot off the griddle. I love that. We were super lucky. We went around to ask people who were at Wela Volcano Park. Okay, there we go. Then we ran into some Team Skull grunts harassing some wild Pokemon and fighting with Aether Foundation employees. So we teamed up with the employees and defeated the grunts. And that's how we found out where their hideout was. Elima then questions, so, where is it exactly? Mallow says, the shady house in Po Town in Ula Ula Island. Yahweh, Lana, and I are headed over there on an Aether Foundation boat right now. We're going to meet with Acerola at the dock, so hurry up and meet us there too. And you still have Lana with that intense look in her eyes. And Lima says, understood, I'll be there soon. He goes up to, I guess, a teacher saying, ma'am, you said someone was here for me. He says, yes, this way, Elima. And as he comes up to the person, he says, you are, oh, Hapu. And naturally eating a malasada, saying, Hapu, how? And we haven't really seen you too much in this. And naturally, he ended up with the Poplio. There we go, Poplio. I kept wanting to say Piplup. I'm like, no, that's not a Piplup. We then cut to Acerola, who seems to love just hanging out on perches with her Sandygast saying, I wonder when they'll get here, Sandygast. That's not an Aether Foundation boat, so that's not them. Oh, and there they are. We see two figures, the woman saying, we're on Ula Ula Island now. Do you think we'll be able to find it here, Dexio? And Dexio says, we will, Cena. Since we came here from Kalos 5 months ago, we've gotten up to 60%. Oh, they've been here for 6 months. Okay. So it's been 6 months since the end of X and Y. Okay. I think I already knew that because I have the thing that tells you the time frame and stuff. Actually, that makes me wonder, is that the shortest amount of time between... Oh, wait. The thing I have says it's been 2 months. There's a 2-month difference between X and Y and Sun and Moon. Am I missing something? Oh, then again, I guess the end of X and Y did have the epilogue that took place several months later, so that might be why. Okay, that would actually explain it. But man, to have been at this for 5 months though, geez. If we need help, we'll find it. We have to gather the remaining 40% of the cells and cores. We then cut back over to the battle with the totem Pokemon Mimikyu. Mimikyu's disguise flumps over, and Sun holds up the Rotom deck saying, "Alright, now's our chance." But Mimikyu's not down, and Rotom knows it, saying, "Zzz, not yet, zzz." And unbeknownst to Sun, Mimikyu strikes. Alright, this was a decent few chapters here and there. Finally, Sun has fully met Lily. Things are going into motion, still going from island to island to do the trials and all that, which I'm glad we're actually doing, because the trials were actually pretty fun. I feel like the trials should lend themselves a lot more to a manga format than even in a game format, where everyone's starting to get a little bit on board, on the same page in terms of the whole situation with the wormholes to ultra space. And I actually like that everyone's taking a bit more of an active stance against Team Skull. That feels like that's something that should happen, especially considering, despite everything, Team Skull manages to gain a lot of ground in Alola, and the idea that nobody really challenges them to any real degree always kind of felt a little off to me. Like, why would you let them just take over an entire town? But then again, we've seen that in various different Pokemon games before. It sometimes feels like there's no cops around in this place, but we're also getting a little bit more information on Lily, Aether Foundation as a whole. I'm still surprised that Lily arriving at the Aether house didn't have a reaction to it, so maybe she doesn't have that much of an issue with Aether as a whole. I don't know, because there's much more of an intense reaction to how Lily feels about her mother. Unless it's something that was in the game too, I just don't remember. But no matter what, Lily just has an issue with her mom, and a lot of it is her getting past that. But I am glad to see that we're actually really getting a lot of Lily's journey, a lot of how she develops, a lot of how she grows and stuff like that. And I don't mind the way they kind of split things up between Sun and Moon. That feels the most practical way of going about this, because Sun and Moon does have a pretty intricate story, and I don't mind them splitting it between two protagonists. I feel like a lot of other adaptations either split it up too much amongst certain characters or not enough. But here, this split feels right. It feels a little bit more natural. Sun has to deal with a lot of the trial captain stuff and all that, whereas Moon finds herself dealing a little bit more with a lot of the ultra beast stuff. And the fact that Sun is more with Lily, Moon is more with Gladion, that's an interesting way of going about it. But not to say that Moon doesn't have any kind of relationship with Lily, and that Sun doesn't have any kind of relationship towards Gladion. Like, there's a really competent writing here, and I really like where it's going. It's just, I don't know. Something about this story just isn't grabbing me as much as I thought it would. Maybe it's because I've already played the games, or it's more recent that I played the games, but I don't know. Or maybe it's because not enough of my favorite Pokemon. It's really hard for me to say the hang-up I'm having with a lot of this, because I'm definitely having a bit of a hang-up. There's something in this story, in this adaptation, that isn't grabbing me as much as I feel like it should. Even though I do like the story, I just can't place my finger on it. I don't know. Something's a little off in my brain when it comes to this adaptation. Like, there's something missing, and I don't know what it is. Maybe because, I don't know, maybe because I'm not as into Sun as I thought I would be? Maybe. I don't know. He's not a bad character, though. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.